Well, as we look into the White Sox future, Sergio Santos was living in the future this past season, managing the Birmingham Barons, and he is our guest on this edition of the White Sox podcast. Hey, everyone, it's Chuck Garfien, and this was a whole lot of fun talking with Sergio Santos about guys like Noah Schultz, Edgar Quero, and so many White Sox prospects who came through Birmingham and excelled, including under-the-radar guys like Addison Coffey and my personal favorite, Riku Nishida. We talk about all of those guys, plus how in Sergio's first season as the Barons manager, he was able to lead them to the Southern League title, the White Sox first Double-A championship in 11 years. We also talk about how they beat the Cubs Double-A team and the Rays Double-A team in the playoffs, despite many of their best players being called up to Triple-A or the majors. And we talk about why he's so bullish about the White Sox future, plus some breaking news that he's going to be the new manager of the Triple-A Charlotte Knights. So it's conversation with Sergio Santos here on the podcast. Here we go. All right, with me is the manager of the Birmingham Barons. It is Sergio Santos. Sergio, thanks for joining us, especially since you just got over the flu. Your plane hurt a little bit, but you're here. You came to play, and I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely, man. It's good to be here with you too, Chuck. I drove home from Santa Rosa yesterday, so that 7-hour drive just kind of congested and nasally was not fun, but thankfully I'm feeling a lot better today. Okay, there's so much I want to talk to you about. And as I was watching this White Sox season unfold, which was painful for so many people, everybody, I was focused so much on the Birmingham Barons because there was some special things going on there, especially in the first half and then in the playoffs. So as the person who was managing the team, what was happening there? Why was it so special of a season for you guys? Yeah, I think of it as it was almost like a tale of two seasons where, like you said, at that first half, we were, stock loaded with prospects and players. And so we did extremely well. And then, as our job as player development, right, is to develop these guys and move them on up. And so the more that they were calling guys up, it gave us reassurances like, okay, what we're doing is right. And then to have this second group kind of come in from everywhere, basically, right? Like some from high A and then some guys from low A that made it all the way up. But they just bought into the culture that we created early on. And like I told them, in a 3-game set, 5-game set, 7-game set in playoffs, like anything can happen. There's a team that can be better than you on paper, up and down the lineup. But in a 3-game set, it's like it's the little things that matter. And so me and the coaching staff really preached that. And kudos to the players. They bought into it, and they were just a gritty group that never gave up. And I think that ultimately helped us and pushed us over the hump to win the championship. Winning atmosphere, you had that. Winning culture, you had that. How did that come to life, especially with so many players, like you said, coming and going throughout the whole season, and yet that remained intact? I got to compliment my staff. I set out my message, what I thought would be best, and they bought into it, and they helped me in every facet. And it was just that it's the understanding of knowing, bad things are going to happen. What are you going to do about it? Right? Like this game can drag you down. You're going to go over, you're going to blow a lead. Like these things are going to happen, but what are you going to do about it? And it was really empowering these young guys to not think about like how hard the game is or if I'm failing or what if I fail, but just to the basics of what I can control. And then that becomes contagious. And then you have players holding each other accountable. So it's not even like I have to be over it. It's they can kind of police themselves now, right? Like these guys have earned the trust of that. And we had some great players, leaders as far as, Edgar Quero, we had Tim Alco early on, right? And so these guys would just corral the group and just get everyone to buy in. And so it made my job a lot easier. You want to live in the now. Players need to live in the now. White Sox fans right now, they don't want to live in the now. They want to live in the future.
Yeah.
And you saw a big part of the White Sox future. So what are you seeing in the White Sox future, judging by the players that you managed?
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot to be excited about. As you know, starting pitching is a premium. It's where it's at. That's how you win ball games, right? And so we have a group of 5 or 6 guys that can really be, starting rotation pieces in the future, and a couple that can be number 1, 2 starters, right? And have a lot of success. So the pieces are there. I think with certain trades and things that Chris has done recently, and Josh Barfield and these guys, they really have a good idea of piecing together, a very successful team, not just for 1 year, but for the longevity of having a window of 5 to 8 years where we're going to be going to the playoffs and we're going to be competing for that title.
So the question always is, well, how do you do that, right? It didn't work the last time. Why will this situation, this front office, and these players be different than what we saw before in your eyes?
Because I think the approach is different. Just in my short time being here, the communication from Chris Getz to Josh Barfield down to Paul Yanish, and then how it comes down to us is, it's all one. And now that we have Will Venable, who's a new manager, who I hear nothing but great things about, and I can't wait to meet him and work with him. I think you have everybody on the same page, everybody pulling from the same rope, wanting the same things. If there's no ego, there's no, I think this is my way or the highway. It's a collaborative effort of what's the best way to do this, because that's all that matters. And I think when the focus is there, good things happen.
So I want to talk about how this season unfolded for you guys. So as you mentioned, first half, this roster you had is loaded. Drew Thorpe was on the team. Brian Ramos was on the team. Edgar Quero, Tim Elko, one of my favorite players, Duke Ellis, who's not a part of the organization anymore, but I was a big fan of him. You guys go 41-28 in the first half. Then a lot of these guys are no longer on the team. You go 31-38 in the second half. You're in the playoffs because you win the first half title. Mm-hmm. And from my 30,000-foot distance, I'm thinking, this is going to be a short postseason for you guys. I mean, I'm just being honest, because you had to face Tennessee. That's the Cubs Double-A team. They were red hot. You beat them. Then you had to face the Montgomery Biscuits, the Rays Double-A team. They were red hot, and you beat them both for the Double-A championship with all these new players. So how did you do it?
Yeah, it was funny. It was so Tennessee and Montgomery, man, they were good all season. And we played them well. So playoff game 1, we're at Tennessee. We lose that game. And so I remember I come in the clubhouse and I just let the guys know, this second half has been nothing but difficult. Did you think it was just going to be this Cinderella story of, it's just going to be handed to you, right? No, I said, but with my back against the wall, with a win or go home game, and I look at these guys, I wouldn't take any other guy on any other team. I want you guys. I believe in you guys, and you should believe in you guys as much as us and the staff believe in you. And I said, listen, we go out there next game, play like it's your last 9 innings, see what happens. And so they go out, they win game 2, and then game 3, and it's listen, it's win or go home. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no pressure. Don't live up to the moment. The moment is here. Be in it, enjoy it. I said, that's the thing that gets lost is it becomes about wins and losses, and that's all that matters. And yes, that's important. But like you said earlier, being present, being in the moment, enjoying this, remembering this for the rest of your life, it'll give you the chance to have an opportunity and come through. And they did. And then we go to Montgomery, travel day. So we're traveling, we get there, it's 90 something degrees. We're hitting BP. And then I'm thinking in my head, oh crap, maybe, we should have hit BP. It's kind of hot. Guys are sweating, and they preferred not to hit BP. But what I did was I did defense inside, and we kind of had a shorter BP, but I wanted them to get used to the field. Anyway, we win that game 1. And I'm just holy cow. Okay. Now we're going back home, 2 games. We got this. We had fear that weather was coming in. And so we may not have gotten into game 3. And if they had won game 2, they were discussing of having a joint championship. So we were like, listen, no. Like, this is not happening. We're playing this game. We're going to win this game. So we take the lead into the 9th inning. I'm feeling good. Everything's great. They tie the ball game. And so, I look at John Eli. He's like, oh, my God. Nicky's kind of pacing. But I had a calmness. I said, it's okay. We're going to win this game. Like, I just had a feeling it's going to happen. And then slowly it started going, and we got the bases loaded. Or actually, when Veras was hitting and they had like a 1-1 count, I forget what the count was. And then they decide to intentionally walk him. And I was like, that's it. DJ comes up, bases loaded. I said, he's gonna do something. And man, he smokes a line drive up the middle. And in that locker room, I couldn't be more proud of that group, because it was like we came from one, defeat away to then just running off 4 games straight and winning this championship. So it was a pretty memorable year, series, and season.
You mentioned DJ. That's DJ Gladney, who is from the White Sox ACE program. He's from Lansing, Illinois. What kind of moment was that when he drives in the winning run to give you guys the title?
Incredible. Such a good feeling. It was, from my vantage point, I think it was like a 96-mile-an-hour fastball sinking down and away. Just stayed down through it and hits this line drive. DJ had a good year, but the kid plays so hard, and he's going to learn. But he goes, to the wall every single time, and so he'll get injured making an incredible diving catch or running into a wall or doing all these things, and so you feel bad for the kid because all the tools and everything are there, and you just want him to stay healthy enough to show what he can do. So it was so fitting that he got injured twice in like a 3 or 4 week time span. And then he would get hit. He got hit by like 100-mile-an-hour fastball in his elbow, like just all these things. And you're just like, gosh, this poor kid. But it was so amazing, to see that beautiful smile of his, like, and just weight off his shoulder after he got that line drive. So it was pretty amazing.
And what was the celebration like afterwards, after you won the title, first Double-A championship for the White Sox in 11 years?
Gosh, it was amazing. It was a lot of champagne, a lot of beer. I think Riku was passing around shots. I mean, there was just a little bit of everything. But it was just a culmination of a group of guys that came in and, they believed that they could win. And they honestly believed that. And they went out and proved it.
All right. So you've managed 3 teams in the minor leagues. 1 with the White Sox, 2 with the Yankees. You've reached the championship all 3 times, won them twice. So what is the secret to your success? I know the players have a lot to do with it, but why have you been such an effective manager so far in the minor leagues?
Yeah, you said it. Listen, it's the players are the ones that go out and do it. But what I realized early on was, the contribution I can make, right, is I can't pitch anymore. I can't hit. I can't do this. It's just to put these guys in a position to succeed, whether that's getting them to think the right way, whether that's getting them to deal with adversity and failure the right way, whether that's getting them to buy into a routine that sharpens their skills every day. And then ultimately creating a culture and an atmosphere that these guys are looking forward to go to every day, right? Like I say it all the time, it's a game, it's baseball. Yes, it's a job, it's a business, it's a sport, but and I challenge my players, because I do it every now and again, where if I see, an 8U baseball team, 10U, like I'll stop by and I'll watch, just because like that's what we all first fell in love with. And so it's just creating that. And I try to be as authentic and genuine as I can. Like there's, I always say I'm not smart enough for trickery or for all this stuff. It's what you see is what you get. And if you play for me and you give your all, like you will get that right back. And I've gotten incredible feedback all 3 seasons, and it's been cool because it's been 3 different levels, right? So it was rookie ball to high A, now Double-A. So to me, it's just what I'm doing is working. And again, like the wins and losses aren't necessarily the telltale sign of you having success, but it's, to me, the development of players or guys that I, managed in rookie ball. When I see now a couple of them just made a big league appearance, and some guys are in Double-A and Triple-A. So it's knowing that their process is moving forward. Yeah, that's, if I could answer it, that's kind of it.
Well, we do have some breaking news that we can share here on the podcast, because last season, in your first season with the White Sox, you were the Birmingham Barons manager. Where are you going next season, Sergio?
So my talents are taking me. No, I'm kidding. So I'll be the manager of the Charlotte Knights next season.
We've even changed your font here.
Oh, I love it.
On the podcast. You are now the Charlotte Knights manager. What does that mean? You're moving up in the ranks here with the White Sox.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, it's exciting. Obviously, Charlotte, beautiful city, beautiful stadium. So I'm looking forward to that. And, especially with these trades and I think the players that we're going to have in AAA, it's going to be a lot of the same group, I think, from AA, the guys that made it, and then guys that, are going to compete for a major league spot. And ultimately, if they don't get it, well, they'll be down with me, and I'll keep them ready. Hopefully we're winning games. And then when Chicago needs them, we send them right back up.
I'm curious, did you apply for the White Sox managing job?
I did. I actually, I went through the interview process, with the White Sox, and extremely grateful to Chris Gatz, Josh Barfield, just for giving me that opportunity. I think what I learned throughout that whole process was, it was amazing. It was great. It was the interviews and then the questions and all this stuff. It really got me thinking about, if I do get in that position, the things I need to have kind of down and ready to do that. But wonderful experience. I learned a lot, and truly grateful that they gave me that experience.
It was kind of an education for you to see where you are right now,
mm-hmm.
and then where you need to be or what you need to do to get to where you want to be. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's listen, if you were to ask me today, I'm ready. Right. But if I'm being truthful, it's like, you can always get better and learn and learn and learn. And so, like I said earlier with Will Venable, I've heard incredible things, and I really can't wait to get to spring and to kind of see how he operates and see how he works and definitely learn.
All right. I want to ask you about a bunch of players who you managed. Okay. And let's start with Noah Schultz. So Noah Schultz, 16 starts in AA. He only had a 1.48 ERA. It should have been lower than that, but no, I'm joking. 73 strikeouts, 61 innings. He's only 20 years old, or was only 20 years old last season. So give White Sox fans a glimpse of who Noah Schultz is and who he can be one day in the major leagues.
Yeah, no, the sky's the limit for him. Like I said, he can be a true number one starter. I mentioned it before, when I got drafted by the Diamondbacks and Randy Johnson was there. And I see so many similarities. The tall lefty, just their delivery, fastball slider combo, just very devastating. And so we had him on a very strict pitch count. And this man, he was the one kid that he knew it was coming, right? It was close, but he would be glaring me down in the dugout. And he knew I would come out, and I'm just like, listen, man, not my idea. This is, higher up than me, but it's for your own good. I know we need you now. I wish you could pitch, 90 pitches every game, but our plan is for you to win, 20 games in the big leagues for the White Sox, not, 4 games for the Barons in 2022. Or I'm sorry, 2023. So, yeah, just he has that front starter mentality. I mean, he wants the ball. He does not want you to take him out. Just a great kid. So, like I said, the sky's the limit. I see him as a number one starter, winning a lot of games.
Yeah, you filled in a blank for me because I'm just watching him pitch, watching on computer, and I'm seeing him getting pulled all the time. There's only one camera, really, usually it's from center field. So I really don't even know what's inside him when you're coming out, and he's not doing anything crazy like, throwing the baseball at you, but I'm wondering what's inside him because you keep having to pull him so early from games. What does he think about that? So I'm very glad to hear that he was absolutely pissed that he had to come out of all those games.
Without a doubt. And, and that's our job though, right? It's as a player, I was the same way. I threw 30 something innings with my UCL already torn, but it was like, you just get in that competitive mode and you're not going to do it. And so it's up to us to pull the reins from him for his own good. And he understood that. That was the job from the beginning, was like, listen, I know you're a competitor. Nobody thinks you're weak, you're soft. This is for your own good, especially with injuries and how they've just skyrocketed in baseball. He's such a precious commodity that he did buy into it. Finally, it was like, listen, it's not that we're restricting you. It's just we want to do this on the front stage so that once all the reins and constraints are off, like, you pitch, the way you can. And what was also good by that was, so he would get mad and frustrated, and I'd be like, okay, how would you love, 14 more pitches? And he'd be like, I'd love 14 more pitches. And I'd say, okay, well, you walked the guy on 4 straight pitches. Okay. Then you had a guy 0-2 and you took him to 3-2. So we started going through this list, and I said, and it was a learning thing of how many wasted pitches he had. Even though he threw great, you wasted about 8 or 9, 10 pitches. So, like, you can go longer in the game. And that's the difference of, a starter going into the 7th to going into the 9th, right? Like, if you are efficient with your pitches, meaning if I get you 0-2, you're done within 2 pitches, you're out. Or, you're making contact, or like all this stuff. So it was a learning curve from top to bottom for him.
All right. Edgar Quero, how did he progress as a hitter and as a catcher? And he started in Double-A with you, moved up to Triple-A, and you know what? Before I get to Edgar Quero, one more thing on Noah Schultz. And I'm putting you on the spot.
Uh-oh.
How close is he to the major leagues?
He's closer than I think most think. Obviously, dependent with health and all that stuff, how he's feeling. I think if he's healthy, ready to go, and I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't know what the plan is, but, I think at the end of the year, and if not at the end of this season, then, definitely next season competing for a spot without a doubt.
Okay. I think this year at some point is a possibility for him, right? If he continues on this path, this trajectory, I know there's an innings limit, but giving him a taste of the major leagues at the end of this season seems to make sense. Correct.
And that's if, like we said, like if everything goes correct, he's feeling great. His velo is kind of staying where it's at. I don't see why not. I think it would be great.
Okay, so back to Quero. Yeah. How did he progress? And he obviously moved on from you. He was in Charlotte at the end of the year.
Yeah, so, Q is one of these guys that is just hungry for getting better. And so you saw that in his catching skills, where him and Rosie, he told Rosie, you stay hard on me. I need to get better at this. And man, he made great improvements on his catching skills, his catch and throw skills. And he cares, and it shows that he cares. And then hitting, he has a really good idea of what he wants to do, what his strengths are. I mean, he's a catcher, right? So he knows what pitchers are trying to do, the game that's playing, and he uses that to his advantage. And he's got great power. Like, I think just the more he plays, he's going to be a major league player. I have no doubt about that. He's a great kid, great work ethic, manages the pitching staff really well, and cares a lot. He cares a whole lot. And so he was one of the guys that I had to, because he runs a little red sometimes when things aren't going, and I love that fire. Don't get me wrong. But when that fire kind of takes you out of your game is when I got to step in and be like, okay, love the passion, but let's channel it in a more positive way.
Does that still happen for you as a manager? Does someone need to tell you, hey, Sergio, chill out?
Never. And if somebody, you could ask anybody on my staff the last 3 years, and I just don't. And it's because, so I talked about in many articles before, stoicism and what that's done for me in my life. And so I practice those principles, and man, I wish there was a camera on me, even when DJ was hitting, and it was, you couldn't tell if it was the 10th inning, first inning. And I know that, the players will always look to me. What's Skip doing? And if my emotions are all over the place, their emotions are going to be all over the place. So I need to be stoic. Now, don't get me wrong. The inside of my hoodie was like literally doing this, but on the outside, I'm good. So yeah, and that's what I try to teach to the players.
Okay. A few more guys I want to bring up. One of them is somebody who I brought up on this podcast about 7 or 8 times. He's not in the White Sox top 30 prospect list. And yet he had quite a season in the minor leagues in low A, high A, made it to double A. And you already know who I'm talking about, don't you?
I do. My guy.
Riku Nishida.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, I mean, can you explain, I don't know if it's the magic, the intangibles of Riku Nishida, because he's 5'6", he has no power, and yet he is such an instigator and does so many special things on the baseball field. And is it going to project to a major leaguer? I don't know, but I could see him being a valuable piece on a winning team in the major league someday. So tell us about Riku Nishida, because he came up to you guys at the end of the year and was a big part of your playoff success.
Huge part. Where I would be bold enough to say the statement, you know, I don't know if we win the series against Tennessee or Montgomery without him. And just what he did for the team leading up to that series. He's such a spark plug. And, you know, and the reason why you don't see him in the top 30 prospects, or he's not spoken about, is the qualities and the intangibles he brings. You can't quantify, right? Like you can't plug that into analytics and say, oh, this, you can't. But what he brings to a team makes everybody exponentially better. It's his attitude. And not only that, he is so smart and has such good instincts in baseball and no fear. You know, I would take, 100 Rikus if I could, just because I know what I'm going to get every day. It's going to be a quality at bat when I'm hitting. When I get on the base pass, I'm going to look to steal and get every 90 feet I can. So yeah, he made such a big impact. And you know, I'll be the first to tell you when Paul Giannis, called and said, "Hey, you guys are getting Riku." I said, "Riku, you mean the little guy from spring training?" And he's like, "Trust me, Serge, trust me." And I'm like, "Okay, all right." I was like, "Okay, well, what are we thinking? What position?" And then he's like, "I would bat him first if you want a leadoff guy." And I'm like, "All right, Paul, I'm going to trust you." I think he got like 5 hits in his first 2 games. And I called Paul and I said, "Dude, you were right on. He's going to be my leadoff guy for the rest of the year." But yeah, so he just brings so many intangibles and such a great kid. I'm so happy for him. He deserves all of it, because he's one of those guys that, like you said, will always get passed over, but will always have to produce to move up. And he's done that. And he's going to continue to do it until he can't. But I, without a doubt, can see him in a big league uniform helping out a big league team. I do.
I can too. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I was the opposition and I saw Riku Nishida on the field, I would not take my eyes off of him, because I'd be like, this guy is a freaking pest. And whether he's at the plate, wearing the pitcher out, or on first base, becoming a distraction, like that's winning baseball right there. And I'd love to see him on the White Sox.
I'm telling you what it does. Like Duke Ellis was one of those guys,
yeah,
right? Riku, like what they do, like being a former shortstop, guys on the base pass like that, what they do is just they put more pressure on you to be perfect, because you can't. There's no bobble. There's no this. It's you got to be flawless in order to get them out. And so it does put pressure on the defense. And a lot of times they fold and they'll make that mistake, and then they take that extra base and so yeah, they're pesky guys, man.
I don't know if he did this in Double-A, but I saw him do this in High A and Low A. He'd hit a routine ground ball to second base and beat it out.
He definitely tried in Double-A. There was no soft 90s for that guy.
He knows his game. He knows his limitations. He knows his strengths, and he's playing his strengths.
And that's it. He's not. He knows I'm not going to hit 2 homers in a game, but I can hit 3 singles. I can walk twice, get on base, and steal 4 bags, right? Like he has a great understanding of his game, and he uses it to his advantage.
All right, I can go 5 hours on Riku Nishida.
Yeah,
A couple more guys. A couple of bullpen arms. Addison Coffey and it's Peyton. Is it Pallet or Palette? I don't know how you say his last name.
I called him PP, but Peyton
Okay.
Palette, I think it is. Palette. Yep.
Okay. I mean, Coffey, 17 innings, 1 run with you guys out of the bullpen, and Pallet, a 1.80 ERA in 15 innings. What did they show you?
Yeah, so both those guys, maybe being somewhat biased, but I saw a lot of my stuff in what they do, right? Good fastball, kind of wipeout slider. So Addison Coffey for us in the beginning of the year, with the way our bullpen was, we really, as everything, you'll have an idea of your late inning guys, and then they kind of compete for the first 2-3 weeks of the season, and then they kind of adjust the order accordingly. Mm-hmm. Well, Addison Coffey was the one stable guy for the first couple months of the season that, man, you knew when he went out there, he was going to throw up a zero. And he got that confidence, and he was just lights out. So then he moved up to Charlotte, and he continued the same thing. I mean, so the guy is a back end reliever. Without a doubt, he's going to be a special reliever. Peyton, to me, from the first time I saw him, I was like, okay, this is elite back at the bullpen stuff. This is a guy that I can see have a 10-year career in the big leagues, as a setup guy, as a closer. I mean, you could throw him in. I mean, he was a starter, right? And that's the beautiful thing that I love now. When you have guys with that good of stuff, is you have them start, because the more innings they throw, they're going to learn about themselves. They're going to learn about it. There's just so much to learn, and it's easier to bring innings in where you're used to throwing 5 or 6. Now, hey, I just need 2, and they're easier to do that. Whereas for me, because it was late when I transitioned, it was always 1 inning. When I had to go 1+, I was like, man, what the heck is happening? Because I'm not used to it. So with Peyton, he impressed me so much, and we spoke a lot about it at the end of the year. And I think it's just for him, his approach at times, because he's so good with this, he kind of forgets about this. And I always honed it in, like, this is your number one, and it's only going to make this
for everyone who's listening, you're talking
fastball,
about.
Sorry. Yes. Fastball is always going to be your best pitch. Fastball will always be your best pitch, regardless of how good your secondary pitches are. And that's how I knew it. Like, if I couldn't locate my fastball, as good as my slider was, it served no purpose, because they didn't have to swing at it, right? But once I established my fastball, now I could work any pitch I wanted off of that. So those 2 guys for me are 100% back into the bullpen guys.
And the White Sox have been lacking with hitters in the minor league system. They're more pitchers than hitters, and they're acquiring and signing more hitters, obviously. So the one guy that was on your team was like probably your best hitter just for the whole season was Wilfred Veras. And I mean, he led the team in home runs and doubles. He had 27 doubles, 16 homers, also stole 25 bases. Mm-hmm. And he and Quero were the youngest hitters on the team for the season. He was 21. So I'm like just trying to, I would watch him going, come on, Wilfred. Like, be that guy, reach your potential. And what that potential is, I don't know. But so who is Wilfred Veras, and what can he be?
Yeah, he is a special kid. I don't care how hard you throw, you cannot sneak a fastball past Wilfred Veras. I've seen him, we saw it this year, turn around 101 and park it. And so that's the thing is with Wilfred, he's so quiet and kind of, mature for his young age. You forget he's only 21. But what I see his potential being, I see a Nelson Cruz 2.0. I see him have that ability to knock 40 out in a season. And, I don't know if he can get to 40 bags, but I know he can get to 30, in the big league season. So great arm, good defense. I think it's just going to take a little more maturing from him and understanding, the game of baseball and all that, but it's coming. I have no doubt that young man can hit in the big leagues.
Well, Well, this is giving me a lot of hope talking with you, because I'm clearly anxiously, impatiently awaiting some of these guys getting to the major leagues. And I think a lot of these guys that we've been talking about are knocking on the door for the major leagues, and you're going to be at that spot in Charlotte with them. And you know what? I mean, I'm now just realizing this. You're going to be the guy that's going to be telling a lot of these players, hey, by the way, Chicago's calling, right?
Yeah. And, I can't even begin to explain how amazing of a feeling that is. I did it. Gosh, I think it was 6 times last year. And it's just, there's nothing like, because at 4 years old, I only wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. And so you have this dream, and to be able to tell a young man, and it's not only just for him, but it takes a village, right? So it's the mom, dad, uncles, grandparents, sibling, like everybody it took for that moment to happen. It's such a blessing, and I feel so grateful to be the one to let them know. And so it gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. And so, the job is to do that at the end of the day. And I hope we do that quite a bit in Charlotte, and we get them up there.
Yeah, I forgot that you did it a bunch of times in Double-A. Some guys were on the fast track. Is there one player or one experience in particular that stood out for you, and how you got the message across to that specific player, and something transpired after that, whether it was his reaction or something that really stood out for you from last season?
Yeah, so it was, I think the one that stood out was Duke Ellis, because it was so unexpected. He wasn't on the 40-man. Like, there was just so many things, right? And so Paul Giannis let me know. It was on our off day. And so in the apartment building I was at, there was like 14 players that also live in that same building. So I said, man, I can't call him with this news. Like, I gotta do it in person. So I text Duke. I go, hey, are you at these apartment buildings? He's like, yeah. I said, okay, hey, I'm in 405. Come up to my apartment. And he's like, okay, ... And he's like, did I do something wrong? And I was like, no. I said, just come to my apartment. I'll explain everything when you get here. So he opens the door, and he's got this look of worry. And I was like, hey, Duke, all right, have a seat, man. It's all good. And so he's kind of nervous, and he's like, what's going on, Skip? And I said, listen, man, like, I'm extremely proud of you, and this and that. And then I said, you're going to the big leagues, man. And his look, just jaw dropped, instant tears, so we're hugging, and he's like, is this a joke? Is this a joke? And I'm like, I would never pull this mean of a joke on anybody. Like, It is not a joke. And he's like, I thought I was getting released. And I said, man, for you to think you're getting released, to getting called up to the big leagues. And then he called his mom, and just seeing her just sheer excitement. And so it reminded me of me making my call to my mom and dad. And so it was a full circle moment, but that one will stick in my head for a really long time.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, hey, Sergio, thanks for being with me. I really appreciate it. Big fan of you, and of where things have gone with the White Sox and you, and congrats on the promotion to Triple-A. It's well-deserved.
Thank you, guys, man. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
All right. Sergio Santos here on the White Sox podcast. Hawk Harrelson, take it away.
All right, Art Chuck, this edition of the White Sox podcast is over.